This video clip is taken from a lesson with one of my students at the University of North Alabama, and as you can hear, she is struggling with making these slurs sound and feel effortless. I know this is something that a lot of different trumpet players struggle with, and in fact, I think this is something that actually every single trumpet player has to figure out how to overcome at some point in their career. The good news is that once we understand the problem, we come up with a solution for the problem, and we make a plan of attack, it is totally possible to fix this problem in your trumpet playing. So, why do some players struggle with slurring and other players are able to make it sound so effortless? There could be any number of reasons for why someone is struggling with this, but I think the core of pretty much everybody's issue is the lack of consistency of their air from note to note. We're often taught to think about the trumpet as having a lower register, a middle register, and a high register, and we often then associate maybe low register with low effort, the middle register with some effort, and the upper register with a ton of effort. The effect of thinking this way is that effortless slurring on the trumpet can almost be impossible to execute. This is because no matter which direction you're coming from, you're gonna have to make some sort of drastic change in your airspeed or manipulate in some way to make these notes happen. When you're doing upward slurs, for example, and you're playing the lower note with less effort, you have to work really hard to speed everything up and almost put too much effort into it to make up the difference. And when you're doing downward slurs, often it's hard to play with delicacy from this high effort place to a low effort place, and you end up just slamming down into the lower notes with very little control. So what's the solution to this problem? Well, it's a simple solution, fortunately, but it's not necessarily an easy solution. The fix for this is to try to stop thinking about the trumpet as having different registers and thus having different levels of effort for the registers, and instead to try to get it so that you're playing with a similar amount of effort or energy no matter what register you're playing in. Practically, this means that instead of playing the upper register with a lot of force and the low register with tons of relaxation, we're gonna try to find a little bit more focus and support in the low register, and we're gonna try to find a little bit more relaxation and efficiency in the upper register. Developing a more consistent approach with your air is going to make the notes feel like they are closer together, and it's gonna make slurring with ease significantly more achievable. In terms of a plan of attack, there are a few different ways that you could approach this. One classic way is to open up the Arban book to pages 42, 43, and 44 and get good at the exercises on these pages. I'd recommend starting with the basic exercises on page 42, numbers 16 and 17, and when you're performing them, make the focus of it trying to play both the upper and the lower note with a similar amount of effort so that it's not high effort and relaxation, but rather same level of air intensity on both. If you're struggling to do this, one modification you can make to this exercise is to just start on the top note. Then you have all the energy or the effort that you need, and you want to focus on manipulating as little as possible to get the bottom note to come out. Simply put, you want to ensure that your embouchure set is staying the same between the two notes. You don't want to open or drop your jaw or anything like that for these different notes. And try to keep your air the same and just aim it in a slightly different spot for each different note. As you get more skilled at these exercises, feel free to progress through them as long as you're keeping this approach. As long as you're not manipulating your embouchure or your air too much, you should be able to find an ability to slur between these notes with some amount of ease through a little bit of experimentation. If those exercises aren't really working for you, here's another amazing exercise to try. This exercise comes from Special Studies for Trumpet by John Daniel, and I really love this exercise because if you do it correctly, it basically forces you to play the trumpet in a healthy way and to make these slurs sound easy. As an added bonus, this exercise will also help your low register as well. So you'll notice this exercise has these lines between the written notes, and above the staff it has a number. The number indicates what valve you should use to perform that series of notes, and the line indicates that you're gonna bend the pitch down instead of using your valves to find those notes. The way I think about performing this exercise is you wanna start with the most beautiful, centered, resonant, healthy trumpet sound you can and begin bending down to the note below. You wanna bend the note slowly at first, and you wanna work on controlling the sound the entire time. So even though you bend the note and the sound gets a little bit weird and wonky, you're still trying to maintain that beautiful, full, resonant, healthy trumpet sound throughout the bend. Eventually, you're gonna reach a point around this second pitch that's written where it's gonna become a lot more difficult to continue bending. At this point, you wanna allow the sound to drop down to the partial below, and then you're gonna pop back up to the note above. After that, you'll perform the same exact bend again, just like you did, and then you're going to pop back up to the starting note and then slur between the top and the bottom note. And if you did this correctly, you should feel that these notes are right next to each other and pretty easy to perform. What's happening here is you are starting with a certain amount of energy or effort on the first note, and you're trying to maintain that so you can learn how to play the bottom note with a similar amount of effort or energy so that you're not having to manipulate, and it's actually teaching you what does it feel like when my air and my chops are forward and focused the entire time. When you do this, you want to make sure that you're not manipulating your jaw or you're not pivoting the instrument or anything like that to get this bend to happen. Rather, you're just letting the aperture inside the mouthpiece control what's happening. I like to think about it as that you're just aiming the air in a different place, but everything else is staying the same. Also, take care to make sure that the real notes, the first and the bottom note, are fully centered and beautiful. It's really easy to play this exercise and not get quite down into the center and to the resonant part of the bottom note before you pop back up. I mentioned earlier that the John Daniel exercise can be really good for developing your low register as well. I had a great interview with Tony Prisk, the second trumpet with the Philadelphia Orchestra, and we talked about low register development and how to do it, and he shared an exercise that's very similar to the one that I shared in this video and kind of went into detail about how he does that for low register development. If you haven't seen that and you want to check it out, go ahead and click the link on the screen, and we will see you in the next video.